This week for episode 76 of the Odd Dad Out podcast, I'm gonna kind of skip the news. It hasn't been a great week for news, and I think you will forgive me this week for kind of, giving it a pass. But I'm going to kind of be chatting about International Podcast Day, which just passed by this last Saturday if you are listening to this around release time. And part of International Podcast Day reminded me of a show I can't believe I haven't featured yet, and it's right now is the perfect time for me to talk about the School of Podcasting.
Beginning Odd Dad Out podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Odd Dad Out podcast, where normal is not my specialty, especially when I just throw the whole format of the show out the garbage today. But I am Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out, your host extraordinaire. And this is the show where I have to say normally, share my twisted little view of things and things I like and what's going on with me. Sometimes it's parenting stuff. Sometimes I'm just bitching about work. Sometimes I'm fighting scorpions. But I always, and I really do mean always, do my best to wrap up the show with a featured podcast that I just think you need to listen to. Because sharing is caring, which has seriously become almost more of a catchphrase than my tagline. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week, or for the first time. Either way, you're awesome. So, like I said, I'm kind of foregoing the news this week because it's been a crap news week. And if you listen to my little bonus rant-isode that dropped yesterday, you kind of get why. And really, it's worldwide news. I don't need to go back into that. But I did kind of think about, and I was kind of upset with myself over missing doing a show. I intended to do a show for International Podcast Day, which was September 30th. And I had been saying for weeks, I'm going to try and do something for Podcast Day. I'm going to try and do something for Podcast Day. Last year, I did a live stream with my boys, which I had to say, not a good idea. If only because if you heard that episode way back, small children and microphones is incredibly chaotic. But I did want to do something this year, but like I said, I work, and it was a Saturday, and it was really tough to just kind of orchestrate things out. But, far be it for me to not spend a day talking about podcasting, because you know what? If you actually know me, you kind of can't shut me up about it. It's one of those things. I did an entire episode way back in the day. Crap, I can't even remember the episode number at this point. All about how podcasts and podcasting is like it's an addiction, and it's like a drug, and it gets its hooks in you. And so something like International Podcast Day comes up, and they did a 30-hour live stream going from podcaster to podcaster all around the world, starting in Australia. And basically, running the globe with the sun, basically, following the sun around the world. And I think it started at like 4 p.m. Pacific time on Friday the 29th in America, which would have been I'm assuming it was midnight in Australia. I don't have a time zone clock in front of me, but it ran all night, clear through. And I tried to cut in and catch bits and pieces of it. And seeing the guys from Spain and a lot of Australians, and which okay, you've probably figured out by now, I kind of have a thing with Australian podcasters. They're just, I like their style of humor. It's all comedy that I listen to when it comes to the Australians. But yeah, it's just a thing. Sorry. But it was just a really cool thing. And they've done it for a few years now, but it's this really awesome thing that they have a day, but they get all of these people together from all around the world just to talk about podcasting and their little sort of segment and expertise. And I saw one segment that was talking about podcasting for authors, and there were parts where they were just talking tech, talking about news and the state of podcasting. And you get some of the guys, like the big shots. You get, the Todd Cochrans, and I'm blanking names right now. But you're getting like all of like the top dog big guys with Blueberry and Libsyn and Spreaker, and a lot of guys like Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity to Podcast, who have featured before. And you get these guys talking, this is their wheelhouse. They're talking podcasting on the biggest podcasting platform of the year. This is our holiday. This is what we get excited for when you're a nerd like me. And I'm a weird category of nerd because I get wrapped up in all this stuff. I get sucked in, and I listen to somewhere around 5 or 6 podcasts about podcasting. You know what? I'm just gonna look, because what the hell? I'm technically a millennial. I've got my phone in front of me. So let's see. Just first, because I gotta scroll through this. I've got the Podcaster Studio, Podcasters Roundtable, School of Podcasting, the Audacity to Podcast, Ask the Podcast Coach, the New Media Show, Spreaker Live Show. Yeah. And that's just in one of the 3 podcatchers that I have. I like the ins and outs of stuff. I like digging into the things that I'm into. And when I got hooked on podcasting, it was like, oh, I gotta listen to this, and I gotta listen to this, and I gotta listen to this. But so I like getting into the weeds of stuff like that and seeing all the different perspectives. Oh, and I can't, after listing all those, I can't ignore that I also recently started listening to The Feed with Rob Walsh and Elsie Escobar. And, sidebar, I seriously only started listening to The Feed because of Elsie. Because, like I said, I featured She Podcasts on the show before, and Elsie also is co-host and producer for that show. And I just love Elsie, and she's great. And so I had to start listening, and I had to see the difference. But anyway, I just really thought it was cool. Think it's cool how they get all these people together, and just the amount of work they have to put in, and all this, the craziness, and all of the different perspectives, and you see, like I said, there's some people that are talking about podcasting as an author, podcasting as an entrepreneur. What is your thing? How does podcasting help you? And these aren't people that are like professional podcasters where their business is their podcast, where their entire thing is, the podcast is their entity. It's, I'm an author, I'm a radio host, I have a real estate business, I have, whatever, that there's so many people, and here's how podcasting helps my industry, that podcasting for them is a tool and a medium to aid them in their business. And then you have guys like Ray Ortega and Daniel J. Lewis and Dave Jackson, and I'm blanking all the other names because I don't subscribe to those guys. Sorry, but where podcasting itself is their thing. These guys who that is their thing. Where I feel like I could sit here and talk podcasting every week. I could, but I'm not an expert. I'm just a fan when it comes to that. I don't have the technical expertise. I don't have the hooks in the industry to feel like I'm qualified to talk about this stuff the way these guys are. And when you've got Daniel and Ray and Dave who together co-host the Podcasters Roundtable, like the Mount Rushmore, the three amigos of podcasting. Like, when you've got those guys and then you've got Todd Cochran and Rob Walsh and Rob Greenlee, you've got these guys out there. It's like, nobody else needs to do anything, really. Sorry. Kudos to everybody else who's out there. But with those guys, you've got the old guard and you've got, the new guard. And even though the new guard are still kind of older guys, have been in the space a long time. But with those guys out there, you don't need anybody else. You don't. They know everything, really. Between the six of them that I listed, shit. Don't. But it's an interesting, like I said, I could talk this all day. Just because when I get into a thing, I become like a fanboy. Okay. I'm sure there's a podcasting fandom that's for nerds like me who get into the thing. Not when you get into like the Facebook groups about podcasts, it's about the shows themselves, not the thing. And so I'm into the thing. And I think that's why my biggest category that I listen to is comedy based. But it's comedy and then it's podcasting. Those are basically my two things. That's about it. I'm, again, normal, not my specialty. Most people are into a thing. I like to make people laugh. And I'm a nerd. And yet I don't listen to a lot of nerdy stuff. I don't listen to a lot of gaming stuff. I listen to movie stuff. Like Epic Film Guys, Netflix and Swill. The Countdown. But all of those shows still are lean on the comedy side. But that's also kind of the great thing about podcasting that I love, is that you don't have to be a one thing. You're not pigeonholed into you're a tech podcast. You have to be, you have to be all super technical and you have to be uptight and blah, blah, like, these guys are funny. And like, you can be funny, or you can be the straight man. You can be super technical, or you can crack jokes. You can, if you do a movie podcast, there are some that are super tight and serious. And they're like Siskel and Ebert. And they, I don't care who the hell the other guy was when they died, but whatever. But you could be Siskel and Ebert, and you could be, technical and precise, or you could also be a clown and be cracking jokes about movies. And that's perfectly fine. And depending on the kind of person you are, you will pick which guys you want to listen to. Do you want to listen to Siskel and Ebert, or do you want to listen to the Epic Film Guys? I don't know. Would you rather, or I guess if you're a fan of the Countdown movie and TV review, are you Paul, the psychologist, the pretty much the straight man, cracks jokes now and then, but He's pretty much the straight man. Or are you Wayne, who I've previously described as a jackal? Hilarious, always cracking jokes, always laughing, always everything is he's just always talking shit and cracking jokes, and but, they work well together. But yeah, are you Paul or are you Wayne? And what shows you listen to, or kind of, check out your thing. You can listen to whatever you want to listen to. You don't have to turn on the radio and this is the movie review you've got. And for the most part, radio movie reviews and TV movie reviews, they pretty much play it straight because that's the most easily digestible. Podcasting, you don't have to be easily digestible. Now, if you want to possibly make money and get big corporate sponsors and all blah, 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 if that's what you're into, yeah, you probably have to produce something a little more digestible. Or you could be me. Or you could be most of the shows that I listen to. Most indie podcasters don't make money. And that's fine. Some people make money, some don't. But you get to be you. And again, I keep saying it's one of my favorite thing about podcasting. I keep saying this about different things and different things, but I love podcasting. I do. My wife kind of described this as this has become my addiction. I was reading an article about a woman earlier in the week, and she was basically describing her battle with addiction. And I was kind of talking to my wife about how I feel like with my family history and some of the trauma and things I've gone through in my life, I'm like, I don't know how it is I don't have an addiction problem, why I'm not an alcoholic, why I've never done drugs. I don't totally understand how that happened. And she was like, she just points to my microphone. I'm like, what? Like, that's it. I'm like, yeah, but I don't do drugs. And I was like, and really the cost of hosting compared to a bottle of Jack is damn near equal. It basically costs about the equivalent of one bottle of Jack, a good sized bottle, but a bottle of Jack for hosting every month. And because I don't have a schmancy website right now, that's one more thing I'm not paying for. So really, this is cheaper than any other addiction I could have had, especially if it were drugs or something, because holy crap, not that I know the street value of drugs, but I'm pretty sure it costs more for drugs than it does for podcast hosting. And for me to sit here and ramble on about crap every week just because I enjoy it. And I guess that's it. And it's kind of like what Jeff Dunham and his bit about why do you do comedy? It says, because I enjoy it and it's the best way I know to make money. In my case, I'm not making money. But I was like, why do you do this? Because I enjoy it. That's it. I enjoy sitting down and talking to you. And yeah, that's just because that's me. I'm an enigma because I don't like people. I've talked about this before, and I'm learning slowly. I'm learning it's a much bigger thing, but I'm generally very introverted, and I'm generally antisocial for that matter. I don't like people in a general way, but I do like making people laugh. You could say I have social anxiety, but I enjoy making people laugh. And anybody who's interacted with me on social media gets that. I don't post and share sad things or pray for this or, oh, this is a terrible thing. And any comments that I post to anybody, even something as simple as a happy birthday, is usually a joke. I don't think I can tell my sisters happy birthday without, calling them old. And I don't think my goal when I post on social media is to get a laugh out of somebody, especially on Facebook. I want to get that little laugh reaction thing because I feel like if I don't get the laugh bit, unless it's a technical question that I'm answering because I listen to so many of these how-to podcasts, and I've got this, and I've absorbed all this technical knowledge from these guys, unless I'm like regurgitating that information I've absorbed from them, my goal is to make them laugh. Really. That is what I love. I love making people laugh. And unfortunately, my style of humor isn't the most easily digestible. But that's why I do a podcast, not stand-up, not a radio show. For God's sakes, not a TV show. And then again, who the hell would put me on TV? But but that's okay. Because you're listening, obviously, because you wouldn't be hearing this if you weren't. But there are people out there, weird as me, who listen to my shit, who will actually voluntarily put up with me for up to an hour a week, or however often you listen to me. And some of my friends, like Chris the Mole Man, and Mike Jolitz, and Gareth, and Mark the New Man. These are some snarky bastards, but they're funny and they're fun, but none of these guys are easily digestible. We do not represent, the mainstream. So there was an episode where the New Man even said he wished he could use my catchphrase, my tagline, but I already had it before he did, because normal, not the specialty. And he saw that and he was like, man, he's like, Dad, I already stole that one. I was like, yeah, kinda. That's kind of been my life, because again, but you can do that in a podcast. You can do that. And you can, that's what it sounds really back to school special. You can be who and what you want to be, how you want to be on your podcast. And it's awesome. And I love that. And I kind of have to go with my wife. That's kind of my addiction. I'm not going to call coffee my addiction. I just really like coffee. Some people might say that it's an addiction, but well, whatever you want to call it that. But aside from just the ability to express and to be you and to go out there and take the little shy guy, in his bedroom in Arizona and turn him into this, cussing people out and making fun of stupid shit on the news and ranting and raving and being all crazy and trying to crack sometimes inappropriate jokes, and making somebody like me, who is a very shy, introverted individual, and turning me into this bigger, louder, expressive personality. Podcasting can do that. I don't know of another medium that can without being fake. This is just a part of who I am that I can't show, that I have a harder time showing. And it does that. And again, there are people that listen. There are people that listen to me every week and that leave me reviews and say, wow, your show is awesome. It's so fun. It's so funny. I love your stories. And I love hearing that. I love that I could make anybody laugh. That I could do, that anybody tells me, hey, you're doing, your show is great. It's really fun. It's really funny. That helps. It gives me a reason to get up and keep doing it. Because, when you don't hear that for so long, and I admit I did not hear anything for so long. And that's probably a big part of why in that first year, I was incredibly inconsistent. Like I said, I'm over 2 years and I'm at episode 76. Mathematically speaking, I should be over 100 right now. I should be well over 100 right now, but I'm not. And, kids and holidays and vacations and things and early days of the show and whatnot. But, when I'm hearing from people that how much they love the different stories and just, that's my only reason for asking for reviews and stuff on iTunes or on the Facebook page is because I want to hear, it's totally stroking my own ego, but I want to hear what you like about the show, what you don't like, just to know somebody's listening. Just to know that when I see a number on there that says this many people listen to your show this week, that they're real people, and they're real people that made a conscious decision to listen to me ramble for an hour, But, this is probably the closest I will ever get to being an entertainer, great big fat air quotes, entertainer. And, I entertain a small group of people. But they come back and they're entertained and they enjoy listening to me. And I will probably admit I've turned off a lot of people today because I'm vamping about podcasting, and sorry I can do that. Anybody, like I said, anybody who knows me, you pull that podcasting string, just rip that bitch out, because I'm just gonna go. I will go and go and go and go and go. Somebody poisoned the water hole. There's a snake in my boot and he wants to chat about microphones. But yeah, that's me. When you pull the podcast string on the back of my little Woody doll, I will just go. But part of that getting into this, and the more I get into this, especially lately, after I passed that 2-year mark, I started making friends. And I realized, 2 years. It took me 2 years. Because for the longest time, the only real podcaster that I had any interaction with was the new man, my buddy Mark. And I think he's actually kind of put his show on hold. I know he got sick, but he's doing something else with his brother now that I haven't really gotten into. I've been so wrapped up lately in trying out new shows. Because, and I've talked about it before, my recommended listening segment comes directly from my subscriptions. Every show I've ever featured is something I am subscribed to. Now, some of them I've drifted away from, not because I don't like them, but I'm discovering new shows and listening to new things, and I'm like, this show is putting priority over that one, and things like that. And there's shows that I listen to, there's shows that I'm subscribed to that I just don't feature. I don't think I need to talk about The Nerdist or Mark Maron. It's like both shows I listen to periodically. I'm not big on interview shows that I've mentioned in the past. But they don't need my help. These are guys that make 6 figures off of the advertising in their shows. They don't need my ass. And I sure as hell don't need to tell anybody else about them because everybody knows about them. But when I reach out and feature the story behind, I have made friends with Emily Prokop. I've made friends with Chris the Mole Man and Mike Jolitz. And Steve, Pete the Podcaster. I've made friends with these people, and I chat with them on a regular basis. And they're cool people, and they're friendly, and it's that community. I love the community, especially in the indie groups. Some of these guys make money, some sell merchandise, some don't. And that's fine. Some people have commercials, some people get sponsors, some people don't, whatever. But that community, that indie community, I've never been a part of anything like that before. Like I said, I'm introverted. I stay away from people. But podcasting has put me into that community. And now I have made friends. I have people that I can talk to about a thing that we have in common. And just sit there and go on and chat with them about whatever. And, I think I've mentioned before, there's talk about me doing another show with Chris the Mole Man and Mike Jolitz. I'm supposed to be trying to get a spot, scheduled for the Crazy Town podcast. I'm still trying to figure out timing to talk to my friends over on pre-recorded live. But this is all just, that's not even like a promotional thing for me. For me, it's just getting to talk to these people, getting to interact with these people. How excited I was just getting to do like a little 15-second little clip for the story behind for Emily's Clue series. Like, getting to be a part of this whole thing, this whole big podcasting ecosphere, and being included as part of this. That is what's so exciting to me. I mean, I've said it before, how I'm a little schoolboy. I get so excited, and things like all the International Podcast Day just brings that all up. I'm like, yes, it's a whole day just about podcasting. And, seriously, I probably should have just sat down and done this on International Podcast Day. But again, work, family, kids. Sometimes it's hard to sit down in front of the mic. Like now, like this show went up way late. Half because of family and kids, half because some guy wanted to be an asshole in Vegas. But yeah, that's what happens. But yeah, I've learned to love this community so much, and I want to do more. And it's just one of those, hey, my limitations are pretty up there. Trying, like I said, I've been trying for over a year to sit down with the guys on PRL. But it's just, hey, I live in a world of limitation, but it's still a cool thing to be a part of. I feel more confident now than I ever have in my life, because I've got a thing. I've made this thing. This thing is mine. And even though I've screwed around with this show so much in the last 2.5 years. I've straight up talked about deleting my entire back catalog before last summer. Back to before, in the before time, before I had segments and recommended listening and all of the things how the show exists now. I've seriously considered scrapping, just straight up deleting and erasing the old shows. But then I feel like that's still a part of where I came from. And there was some good stuff in there, not a lot of it, but there was some good stuff in there. That whole not doing, I have to do things the wrong way so long. Because when you do things the wrong way for so long, you learn the right way. Well, in podcasting, that's what I did. They did the same thing. And I think I've mentioned this before in the podcast we listened to group on Facebook. I started this show having never listened to a podcast. And that's something I don't think anybody else is smart enough to do. What I did is Google, how do you do it? Signed up for, and I've told the story before. Signed up for Podbean, looked at the whole thing, okay, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I don't have a microphone. I don't have any. I don't have anything I need to do this. But then I see the Spreaker app and I'm like, oh, hey, I can do this from my phone? Shit, let's do that. Because I signed up for Spreaker. And that's why I'm hosted with Spreaker. Seriously, that's why. The rest of it was getting complicated, recording software, and I didn't have recording software. I didn't have a standalone microphone. Eventually I dug up an old microphone, like a karaoke mic that I still had from my parents. But yeah, it was but that's, that was the starting of the show. was, again, me. And if you listen back to the train wreck that was those first couple of shows, it was me in my car on my way home from work talking into my phone. And even the difference between night 1 and night 2, where I was like, hey, I better put the car on cruise control because I'm doing 85. No bueno. So, every week, every episode is a lesson. And every day that I do this, every week that I do this, I'm learning more. And every week and every episode that I go out there and I reach out to other podcasters and I send messages and I interact with them in the Facebook groups. And the more I bring myself into the community, because I still shy away from stuff because I'm still shy, even in social media. Oh, the anonymity of social media, even when your name is right there on a thing. So it gets a name and a picture. They don't know you. So, that whole thing. But by the very nature of this show, you learn who I am and you get to know me. And this is it. This is me reaching out. But again, that community that has, for some crazy reason, accepted me and all of my awkwardy, weirded rambliness. That I love being a part of it. There is nothing else I've ever experienced like this. I've never had a group of friends that I shared a common interest with. No bullshit. I've had friends before, and they were like, but it was school, where it's like, oh yeah, you're forced in a situation together, and it's like, yeah, you all share classes. You all have some of the same teachers. But I never socialized with there was like a couple of, other than like girlfriends, there were a couple of people that I ever saw outside of school. They're like, it was either whatever girlfriend I had, and I think there was like a couple of girls that I was friends with that I saw outside of school. It was twins. I was trying to date one of them. That was mostly it. But yeah, I think I had one friend in college that we socialized outside of school. That was it. Now I've got people that I talk to on a regular basis. And I keep going back to Chris the Mole Man and Mike Jolitz. They're basically my neighbors. They're the closest thing to neighbors that I'll talk to, because as sure as hell I'm not talking to my actual neighbors. But, I'll chat with those guys every now and then. I'll chat with Emily now and then. A funny thing comes up, or I'll be like live tweeting stuff during PRL and chatting back and forth with those guys. Wisecracking back with Rick and Sarah from Ice in the Face, and it's a tall order to out wisecrack Rick and Sarah. Really, like I don't even ever consider the option of trying to call in on that show, because fuck no, they're up there with the. Yeah, I'm trying to match wits with those two. I'm out of my league, but But there's this group that I just like. I love it. I have friends. I have even like kind of like loose association friends, but we're all part of this thing. It's great. Yeah, I'm talking in circles. I know I'm talking in circles because that's what happens when you don't write shit down. And I don't write shit down. Other than my little speech yesterday, I don't write shit down. Because I can't. Because I sound like I'm reading, mostly. Actually, I can read scripts very well. But, yeah, it's a whole other thing. I can act. I can voice act. I can read a script and sound like I'm not reading. And you'd never know. But, yeah, don't put a camera on me. My wife and I learned that horribly this week. Sidebar. We had to do a little video for one of her classes. And yeah, every second that I was on that shit, I was just like, oh God, no crap. I can't act on camera. Give me voice work. I can do voice work. And But yeah, sidebar over. But yeah, I love being a podcaster. I love podcasting. I love the community. I love what it allows you to do. And it allows you to be whatever part of you that you want to get out there. It's like the most honest form of media, because there's no reason to lie. Unless you're doing like a fiction podcast where you're playing a character on purpose, there's no reason to lie. There's no need to put up some false front or some image that you are other than who you are. Whatever you are when you turn on that microphone is you. It may not be the part of you that the rest of the world sees all the time, but it's you. This is me. This is who I am. And if you listen, and I'm sure if anybody out there, if any of you ever met me, probably not what you're expecting. I probably don't look at it at all. Even if you've seen pictures of me, I probably don't look like you imagine I look. I also probably am not going to have the temperament you imagine, because this is a different element of my character. Not character, but like different part of my personality. But yeah, it's real. This is real. More real than anything you'll ever find. Because you can be you. Every part of you, the part of you that likes being a nerd, the part of you that likes talking tech, the part of you that loves weird ass obscure movies, or the part of you that wants to talk about My Little Pony, or the part of you that is a super snarky chef, or the part of you that wants to play video games all day. All of these different little elements of you are you. And if you are so inclined, you can have a podcast where you just talk about that one little thing you're into. You can host the My Little Pony podcast and this week in iPod news, whatever. I don't know. I suddenly was at a loss when it comes to tech stuff. Almost all the names are taken. I was like, crap, I need a name for a random thing. Yeah. But anyway, you can do those things. I could do a music show. Not going to, because I don't feel like I have the knowledge base to put together a show worth listening to. Maybe that's just my insecurities, whatever. But, I've talked before about I want to do like a fiction show, like a scary stories, paranormal type thing. But, there's all these different elements of me. I'm not lying. It's all me. That's what you're getting. No bullshit. And it's just like the me here is different than the me you hear if you listen to mom and dad cuss. It's a different side of who I am. This is a very ranty, snarky, sort of me. And then that's me sitting with my wife, us, joking around, talking, parenting. Different parts of me, but still me. And I love, you can be all of the you. You can be all of the you. That's my podcasting lesson this week. Because I've ranted for nearly 45 minutes now. Oh my God. But I said I can talk podcasting all day. And I can vamp like all day. But I think that's my lesson this week, is that podcasting lets you be who you are and all of who you are. It lets you be whatever it is you are on the inside, not just what you let people see on the outside. You let them see all of the parts of you that are you, and however you want them to see it. Okay. I think I've vamped and rambled for enough. I think I've made up all of the time from my normal segment and the news. and all the promos I would have played in between. Sorry, guys. But I am going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I will chat a little bit more. I'm sorry if you're getting tired of my voice, about this week's award-winning featured podcast, The School of Podcasting.
Hi, this is Emily Prokop from The Story Behind, which is a podcast about the extraordinary history behind the ordinary. What does that mean? It means whenever my ADHD gets the best of me, I begin to wonder the stories behind everyday objects. This is the story behind sporks, behind chewing gum, behind hoodies, places. This is the story behind Mount Rushmore. This is the story behind speakeasies, or people. This is the story behind Uncle Sam. This is the story behind Betty White. Everything has a backstory, and from what I've noticed from doing the show, not everything is as plain and simple as history books may have you believe. Join me Mondays and Thursdays on your favorite podcast app, or at thestorybehindpodcast.com. And thanks for listening. Want to know the story behind Podern Family? Podern Family started with a hashtag for indie podcasters. The podcasters who do this for fun and because we're passionate. We're not the big podcast you hear about, most likely. We don't have 10 to 15 people helping us with production. But that doesn't mean the quality and content you're getting isn't as good as any of those shows. Is there an area of interest you like talking to people about? Listen to an indie podcast on that topic. The hosts are incredibly reachable. We're basically clamoring to hear from listeners. We're just as much your fans as you are ours. No matter what you're interested in, Podern Family's got a show for you. Like movies and TV? Check out the Epic Film Guys, the Something Something Cast, the Boxers, or the Countdown Movie and TV Review. Do you like comedy? Check out Everyone Has a Podcast, the One Word Go Show, Afterburn 739, Now That I'm Older, Rick and Paul Heal the World, or Off in the Weeds. How about random trivia and fun facts? Check out The Endless Knot, or The Story Behind. Like comic books and geek culture? Check out Geek Yogurt Podcast or Little Geek Lost. I could go on, and believe me when I say there are a whole lot more where that came from. But you can find all these and more by searching the hashtag Podern Family on Twitter.
Recommended listening.
Today's winner of the technology category is long overdue. So our 12th annual People's Choice Podcast Award winners in the category technology goes to School of Podcasting. Dave, you made it, baby. Congratulations.
Hit it, ladies!
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
Podcasting since 2005. I'm your very own personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson. Thanking you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, I bring like 20 plus years helping people understand technology, and I help you massage your message. I help you tackle that technology, face your fears, and flatten the learning curve and get you on the road to not just podcasting, because look, you can watch a bunch of old outdated YouTube videos to do that. I want to get you podcasting in the right direction. Our website is schoolofpodcasting.com, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. If you're watching this, holy cow, that means the School of Podcasting, after being nominated somewhere between 7 and 9 times, has actually won a podcast award. Holy cow, thank you so much. You might want to check your calendar. I believe this is one of the signs of Armageddon. But again, thank you. First, I have to thank all my listeners. I do this for you. It's been my pleasure to serve you for 12 years. And thank you so much for sending in your feedback and because of my podcast stories. It really puts a lot of gas in my podcasting tank. I want to say thanks to all my family, especially my brother. When the School of Podcasting was started, I was actually living in his basement, and I'm not sure that the School of Podcasting would exist if I didn't have that little support from him, so thank you very much for that. Also want to thank my co-host, Bernie the Cat, who is now launched on to his own show. I want to thank Libsyn for hosting all my files for 12 years and, of course, for giving me a job. I want to thank Todd Cochran for running the podcast awards. I've had to do this whole award thing 1 year, and I know it's a lot of work, and just know that it's deeply appreciated. And lastly, if you have a passion, if you have a message, please come find me at theschoolofpodcasting.com. I really want to help you start and launch a podcast that's going to change your world. Thank you so much. It's deeply, deeply appreciated.
So that is Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting, who I'm surprised I haven't featured this show before, because I have been listening to the School of Podcasting pretty much since I started this show. Up right there with the audacity to podcast. These are Daniel and Dave are the two guys that have kind of guided me. Even if I'm not necessarily following what they say, I am learning from them, and I'm soaking in all this knowledge, even if I don't necessarily have the wherewithal or the means or whatever to necessarily apply it. But the thing about Dave Jackson is a teacher, and part of, the School of Podcasting, it's not just a name. It actually kind of operates as a school for how to start like you said, how to start your podcast right. He teaches you the who, what, how, where, why, what you need to know, and how, and guides you and coaches you along with how to be successful, nurturing your ideas and all of those things. And the thing about it is, he doesn't come off like a teacher. At least not a teacher in that, here's the book, here's what to do, here's how you do it, run and read the notes, and here's the lesson, and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Like, Dave Jackson was that cool substitute that came in that you knew had an actual teaching degree, or just that cool teacher you had in school. That teacher everybody wanted to take their class. That's Dave Jackson. He goes out and he teaches podcasting and teaches you all the things and tests out all of the tools and the doodads and the services so that you don't have to. So that you don't do like me and do everything the hard way. He does all the heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to do it. You can take his word for it. And not even just as like he's an expert. It's like, no, he's the expert because he's not going to take somebody else's word. He wants to say, I've tried it, I've tested it, I have criteria. Because, again, his teaching background, he's legit a teacher. And so with his teaching background, he basically is made like here's my criteria for how to test and how to quantify a thing. And I'm going to apply these criteria to anything I test so that I can say on an even playing field that, item A is better than item B because of the criteria, that service A fits the criteria so I can recommend it. And really, I think if Dave Jackson says it's a piece of shit, it's probably a piece of shit. And not to say, oh, he knows all, but it's because of the way he approaches things and the way he analyzes and he looks at everything fairly. He did a review on a microphone he doesn't like, that he is for a long time, every time I've heard him talk about it, saying that he did not like this microphone, and he's kind of talked bad about it, but he did a fair review and tested it out. It's like, here's its strengths, here's its weaknesses. And it basically came down to, this is a good mic if you know how to use it properly. But it's not the best, it's not the easiest mic to use properly. Most people use it wrong, and that's why most people sound like garbage. It's like, it's a great mic if you use it right, it's perfectly acceptable, but you have to use it right. If you don't, you sound like crap. So, and again, this is a microphone he doesn't like, but he gave it a fair review and came out with, essentially a mostly positive review. And that's not normally his thing. It's not normally reviewing equipment, but he tests out the things so that if somebody asks him, hey, what do you think about this thing? He can have an educated, informed response. And new recording software comes out. He tests it out and he makes a video. Here's how to use it. Here's how to break it in so that you don't buy this new software and are like, clicky, yeah. He teaches you how to do this right. And like he said in his acceptance speech, he has been nominated for this award for many years, either in education or in technology. And he should have won a long time ago. I believe the Audacity to Podcast won this award a few years. I think it was quite a few years ago now. But these guys, they know what they're talking about. But the thing, I have to use Daniel J. Lewis as kind of the compare and contrast here. Kind of like I used Paul and Wayne from The Countdown. Even though Daniel actually hosts a comedy podcast, between Daniel and Dave, Daniel's the straight man. Daniel does the deep dives on the tech and the fine detail stuff. Whereas Dave will provide you the same information, but he does it with a fun, you listen to like that, the music and the hit it ladies and all the catchphrases and, and he does it with this flow of fun and comedy. Whereas even if I wasn't a podcaster, even if it wasn't even a show about podcasting, I would listen to Dave Jackson because he's just a fun, funny guy. Really. And he does a weight loss show and he does a couple other shows. He does like 10 shows. And even in he talks about his Bernie the Cat show. He will start a new podcast just to test out a new thing so that he knows how the thing works. But, like I said, I'd listen to Dave even if he wasn't talking podcasting because he's an entertaining guy. He's an entertaining host. And, I meant to, and because of the whole I don't script this stuff, when, I talk about like podcast movement and all these podcast conventions and things that go on, and he goes to a lot of these things, and they'll have these big celebrities. I don't care about meeting, Kevin Smith or Mark Maron, or if Chris Hardwick ever went to a podcasting convention other than the one he actually started. But, I don't care about meeting those guys. If I were ever going to go to a podcast convention or something like that, I would want to be meeting Dave Jackson. I'd want to be meeting Emily Prokop. I'd want to be meeting the Epic Film guys. I'd want to be meeting the guys from The Countdown, although they're in Australia, and that's highly unlikely. But these are the people that I'd want to meet. But like Dave Jackson, I would be honored to just walk up and shake his hand, because his show and just kind of his mentality about, it's find your passion, follow it, do your thing. If you are, it's like, yeah, maybe not everybody's going to listen to your show. Like everybody starts at zero. It's a slow burn. It's about, building your audience, nurturing your audience. And he does that. And there are so many times that I probably would have quit this show, but listening to Dave is motivation in and of itself to keep going, to keep trying, and to keep reshaping and retooling the show. And like, if it's not working, fix something, adjust something, talk to your audience. What do they like? What do they don't like? That's why I always ask you, tell me what you think. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. So I can make the show better for you. That all comes from Dave. That is a lesson very much that I took from Dave, and that's why I'm going to continue pestering you every week I don't care. Really. I do not care if you leave me a review on iTunes. I couldn't give two craps about iTunes because I don't have some massive audience that's going to skyrocket me up the charts. I don't care. That's not what I'm here for. I don't look at iTunes. I get, I'm signed up for my podcast reviews at the beginning of the month. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think my email is a little overdue, but at the beginning of the month, I get an email from my podcast reviews that shows me any new reviews I've got. I think I've got a total of 10 in 2.5 years. And they're all positive, and that's great. But I don't care about those. I don't care about them for the sake of it being iTunes. That's not what's important. What is important to me is that I'm hearing from people telling me what they like about the show, what they don't like about the show. You know, it's part of why I continue to do the Jackass of the Week. That seems to be everybody's favorite part. But everybody loves the Jackass of the Week. And there are some people who love my stories about my kids. It's why I tried to start incorporating more stuff about my kids, because it seems that, and you know, when I've got dad in the title of the show, I should probably talk something about being a dad from time to time. But yeah, but that asking, I like I said, I don't care if you review the show on iTunes or if you send me a message on Facebook or Twitter saying how funny you think this story was or that story was. So I talk about the pizza podcast. That guy hits me up almost every episode about like the bit with the cereal last week. It was like, I'm sitting here eating a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios for the first time, and I don't know how long while I'm listening to your show, and just like, whoa. Or 2 summers ago, my back and forth interaction with the new man when it seemed like all of our episodes, our subject and what was going on in our lives in our episodes was matching up week to week. And our communication over that. These are just Facebook conversations and Twitter conversations. I don't need an iTunes review for that, but an email or a tweet or a Facebook message, a little laughy reaction to the Facebook post about an episode. That's, hearing from you. What do you like? What do you not like? That's what I want. That's why I pester you for it. And again, that comes from Dave, because the whole thing, you can't make your show better if you can't get that feedback from your audience. And so like I said, I'm going to keep pestering you. I'm going to call. I will call and call and call. Okay, I'm not calling you because I don't have your phone number. If you give me your phone number, I guess you're kind of weird. But I'd be a little concerned if you're giving me your phone number, actually. But I'm glad to see that after all these years, after, 13 years about, that Dave finally this is the year of Dave Jackson, really. And I didn't mention it before. He also was inducted into the Podcasters Hall of Fame this year during podcast movement back in August, September, I believe. It was the beginning of August. I forget when it was now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, back during podcast movement, Dave Jackson was inducted into the Podcasters Hall of Fame. And then this year, he also finally wins a Podcasters Award. And he deserved these things a long time ago. And this is really one of those, come on, seriously? And I totally believe the reason he finally won the award this year is because they changed the way the system was working. Because the old way the podcast awards were voted on made it very easy. And it happened last year, and I think I talked about it. But it made it very easy for people to cheat, essentially. It was like American Idol, where you could get the robodialers and you could get the people that would they'd all get together and they'd all say, hey, we're all going to vote for this show or these shows. And they could totally game the system, as they say. And this year, they changed it up to try and eliminate a lot of that stuff. And now suddenly, shows that you've heard of, somebody like Dave Jackson, who's been around for forever, who should have won this award so many times, finally won. Those people who really deserve the recognition, not the people with the biggest fan base. Because that's not what it's about. Somebody like Dave Jackson should win this award every year. And anybody who listens to the School of Podcasting knows that. Anybody who's ever listened to Dave Jackson, whether it's on Ask the Podcast Coach, or the Podcast Rodeo Show, or the Podcast Review Show, or the School of Podcasting, knows when it comes to a category about podcasting or tech or anything like that, Dave Jackson should win that award every year. Unless you're more of a podcast junkies kind of person, or you're an Audacity to podcast kind of person, but you probably still listen to Dave. That's really kind of it. Because Dave is the cool teacher. You want to be in his class. And like I said, even if he weren't talking about podcasting, I would still listen to him. Okay. I think I went and I stroked my ego for enough, and then I can't say enough about Dave Jackson. This is probably the most I've said about another podcast that wasn't hosted by a female. Honest. I think I've probably gotten in hot water over my features about the story behind and Unwritable Rant and She Podcasts. I don't know. I can go on and on about the ladies, but those are also amazing shows. But the School of Podcasting is an amazing show with an amazing host who has been doing this forever. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or you just want to listen to the fun that it is, like how fun he makes podcasting sound, even in the most technical nitty-gritty of the stuff, check out the schoolofpodcasting.com. Check out the podcast, or check out the school itself and learn to start your own podcast from the best teacher out there. And hint, hint, he's also probably the most economical when it comes to learning to do this, because most of these guys are going to charge you in the thousands, and he has a very reasonably priced service. So you can learn how to do this. Essentially, Dave is the cheapest and the best in the same package, and he makes it fun. So again, schoolofpodcasting.com. Check him out because he's worth it, because he's an award-winning Hall of Fame podcaster, and Mark Maron and Chris Hardwick and Kevin Smith can't say that. But that is going to do it for me for this week. God, I didn't even have any material, and I just went on longer than usual. But before I go, I do want to announce that the Odd Dad Out gear shop is open. You can check it out, odddadout.threadless.com, or just go to odddadout.blogspot.com and click the little Odd Dad Out gear link there at the top. And right there you can find your Odd Dad Out t-shirts with the happy little face logo. Normal is not my specialty. T-shirts, coffee mugs, phone cases. I threw my face on a lot of stuff because it may not tell you much about the show, but my logo looks cool on stuff. So check that out if you are so inclined. And in honor of the launch of the store and International Podcast Day, when the shop opened through the end of October, everything is on sale. And in coming November, it'll probably go back up. And hell, I may even put everything on sale again at Christmas because it's Christmas time. And if you buy a shirt or a coffee mug, I'm even using my Odd Dad Out coffee mug right now. But if you buy one, send me a picture on Facebook or Twitter, of course, at odddadout, or email me odddadout@gmail.com, and show me what cool Odd Dad Out stuff you got. I'm going to try and harangue my wife into letting me get a hoodie because, come on, it's even in Phoenix, it's starting to cool down. But I want to thank you once again for listening to my rambling craziness and continuing to put that little spring in my step to keep coming back every week. And I will be back next week with some more weird stuff, and back with the weird news and crazy stuff and recommended listening features, including next week's Brand X podcast. But until then, I've been Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. Thank you and good night.